Ladies and gentlemen, the crypto space. We're live on a Friday, April 29th at 11:34 a.m. A very simple stream today. We talk about currencies over the last couple of years, but it's time for a 101, a recap. And we talk about protocols, and each protocol is a currency or has characteristics of a currency, but they also have characteristics of other stuff like equities and commodities, so on and so forth. We know this, but the fundamental evaluation of any of these protocols is a currency evaluation. It has to do with supply, emissions, inflation, deflation, and velocity, which is really an evaluation of the currency supply of the entire market. Is the currency supply in the market increasing? Of which that is the case. In the crypto space, there's more and more currencies that are drawing the attention of the amount of dollars that are entering circulation in this microeconomy, the crypto space. So as more and more currencies increase, the amount of currency is being diluted. So there's the same amount of dollars or the amount of dollars that are entering the space chasing more and more currencies. And to top it all off, it's not just new currencies coming into circulation, it's also the increase in currency supply as per double entry accounting. So if you look at Aave, there's more and more currency as measured by double entry accounting. So, what goes into a good currency? I talked about it briefly on Twitter this morning, but you guys know the deal. Good currencies are elastic, and I would argue a good currency is not deflationary. A deflationary currency is going to appreciate when there is lack of supply, when there is excess demand and not enough supply to meet demand. That causes appreciation. So, a currency doesn't entail, or a good currency entails hopefully a relatively stable price point. Um, a bad currency is one that's appreciating in value. That's a store of value if something's going up in value, or a speculative asset that is going to produce either most likely capital gains. And that's like Bitcoin. Bitcoin is a horrible, horrible currency. It's not a currency, albeit the argument of maximalists is that if it becomes the denominator, sure, then it's a currency. But that's a far gone conclusion or a far off fairy tale land in the world of sovereigns. But I guess that's what they like to think about. I don't think that makes any sense. So, in its current form, it's not a suitable currency in any regard. So, the most optimal currency really is exactly what the WEF is talking about with a CBDC, albeit it gets a bit dystopian when a sovereign country is in charge of the pulleys and the levers and the rules of the currency, because they'll end up using it to their own interest and for their own gains, and it gets corrupted and all that bullshit. But the optimal currency is where supply meets demand. If there's excess demand, more supply is introduced. If there's a decrease in demand, supply is removed from circulation. What is the point of that? The whole point of that is a stable price point. A currency, a good currency, has a stable price point. So, we're in a world where we have shitty fiat currencies that absolutely suck. There's no way for these sovereigns to get supply to where the demand is in the market because of the legacy banking infrastructure. And this is exactly why all these countries are rallying around the notion of a CBDC because they could get supply to where the demand is. Oh, yeah, that's not going to get corrupted. Oh, a bunch of risk, or there's a lot of risk in the market with what they want to do, and I don't trust these politicians, and I definitely don't trust these macro financial organizations. So we play around in the crypto space, and we do the best we can. We try and outperform. We try and hoard dollars to the best of our abilities. And look, that's a shitty currency. People are encouraged to hoard dollars, and it's built into the economy with banking and savings and retirement accumulation. It's a shitty currency. Um, Maybe per historic standards, that's the norm. That's what's expected over the last how many years, or maybe throughout history is the saving for retirement. But that makes it inherently a shitty country if a person has a capacity to accumulate. I guess this is really a good part of the WEF narrative: own nothing and rent everything, and that technically is by definition a better currency, where supply meets demand on using various tools, and then it's in balance, and then everything really is worth one what? Not a dollar, one unit of account. And they could balance it. And then everything becomes more fair, more equal, more utopian. So I can't argue with that. They're absolutely right. It's just up with the CBDCs. I don't trust a damn person, Klaus Schwab, with his needs a fluffy cat to sit on his lap. Oh, my little kitty cat. And that's it looks like the evil villain. Anyway, so that's besides the point. So we talked about what goes into a good currency. We understand what a decent currency is. We have decent currencies in the crypto space. A good part of a good currency is constant demand. Constant demand prevents excess depreciation. Now, we don't have perfect currencies, but Curve is a great currency because of the reserves that protocols are putting Curve into. So there's a constant demand that accommodates the excess supply that's bought and sold speculatively. So there is more likelihood than less that it will depreciate less than other currencies that don't aren't on reserves. Now, there's a couple of reserve currencies that are circulating in the crypto space, and obviously, Liquid Driver, Tokamak, Frax, and the DAOs that are accumulating these currencies are in turn um, very meaningful components of that constant demand. So these are very interesting dynamics. We draw an historic analogy, what has occurred in meat space, but we also see these dynamics playing out in new ways in the crypto space, and that's what we're really trying to hone in on and understanding these mechanics to the flow of capital within the crypto space. Combining our historic knowledge of currencies and meat space with these new dynamics we see in the crypto space and forming these narratives and these stories that we talk about. And they've helped us greatly. We've clearly outperformed the market over the last 2 years. We've gained more than we've lost, and we're protecting capital in this environment. And we understand that it's all about the dollar. The dollar is not going anywhere. So everyone on the stream knows that that's important, and we're not over allocated. And we always talk about how much dollars do we have, how much are in our savings account, 25, 35, 45, 50% stables ready to buy as the currencies, the local currencies in the crypto space continue to debase. Uh, the capital will flow out, just like we've talked about modeling the crypto space as an emerging market. So the currencies in the crypto space are increasing. The amount of dollars are potentially actually decreasing, which means there's more local currencies in the crypto space chasing equivalent, if not less, dollars, which is going to lead to a depreciation. But what happens? You get the cycles, you get the capital flow cycles of an emerging market. As the emerging market depreciates, there becomes a point where all the dollars out there could come in and purchase a shitload of the equity, of the property, of the currencies, of the protocols, and it becomes, and then the capital flow reverses, because now all of a sudden the opportunity is there, and as capital starts to flow in, it has momentum, it has velocity, and there you got your cycles. So that's the way capital flows work in legacy finance, and that's the way it'll work in the crypto space. And probably the closest thing we have to understanding these capital flows is emerging market capital flows. Now, my expectation is very rapid cycles, an emerging market cycle that's much more pronounced than traditional finance. There's just that much growth, that much increase in local currencies in the crypto space that's going to cause a more pronounced rate of depreciation, which is going to make peak cheapness come faster. So maybe in 16 and 17, leading into the bear market of 18 and 19, maybe that was mostly governed by the Bitcoin 4-year halving cycle. But there's new cycles going on, man. In 2020 and 21, there's now what I would say multiple cycles in the crypto space. Sure, you got the Bitcoin halving. Sure, you have the macroeconomic landscape and whatever's going on with global fiat currencies. But now you have the crypto space. I would very, very strongly argue is modelable as an emerging market. So now we have a brand new cycle that we could talk about. Why is this showing the wrong screen? Display capture. Two? Yeah, there we go. All right. So we got the 10-year up. Nothing special here. This thing looks like it's selling. It looks like it's not wanted at all. So what happens is with bonds, they're sold until basically collateral collapses in leverage positions, and then it rapidly reverses. And that's what we've seen throughout history. It's actually quite fascinating to see how low bond prices are going, how high rates are going. There'll come a point where it has to reverse, where collateral shortfall, and you get margin called. So we'll see what happens there. So basically, this chart screams to me that I don't trust a damn thing going on in legacy finance, and I expect shit to hit the fan. And by having that kind of mentality, a worst case scenario, if something good happens, great. We got plenty of assets. We got plenty of skin in the game. If I'm expecting them to depreciate and they stop depreciating and they start going up in value, I'm not going to be unhappy, but at least I'm being a realist about things. And that puts me in a better position to handle further depreciation. At least that's the mentality that I have going into this current market. We'll keep the stream a little short today. Let's see who's in the stream and see if I can help anyone out. Morning, Dan, Pat, Eth Merge happening tomorrow? I don't think so, my friend. Dan, hey, hey. Oliver, Muhammad, hi. Encoder, greetings. Hilda's in the house. Chris, first time live, but sadly it's 2 a.m. Melbourne. 2 a.m. Well, thank you for joining live. You could always catch the recordings. It's all good. Happy to help if you have any questions. Fran Corp, good afternoon. Risky Crypto. Joe, I was a majority stables last week. Now I'm almost out. Out of stables? Very precarious time to get out of stables and into assets. I think further discounts will be available. Shish, thanks for all the insight, Noah. All the macro education is priceless. Hey, Noah, one curious view. Rupert, what's up, Noah? Yeah, Shish, macro is really the deal. It's not about macro being predictive of what's going to play out. It's that macro always existed, even back in 1617. It's just that we never talked about it because now in these markets in the crypto space, it has all these overtones of an actual financial system with capital flow and velocity, so on and so forth, that it makes all that much more sense to talk about macro in the context of crypto. And that's exactly what leads me to start to think of the crypto space as an emerging market. But it's an emerging market unlike no other. It's an emerging market of emerging markets. It's an emerging market with countless local currencies. It's like, pick a country, and they have their official currency, but they also have 200 other currencies that are official and legal. So that's kind of like what the crypto space is. It's kind of like an entire country, and so that's the way the capital flows playing out. Capital flows in, capital flows out. The amount of capital that flows in has the amount of local currencies in circulation chasing that capital, trying to get as much of it as it can. So nowadays we primarily have dollars in the crypto space, but there's a lot of others. There's a big amount of euros and synthetic assets as well. But it still ultimately is chasing the one-to-one backed stablecoins, and that because that's the only way really to get capital in and out. That's the bridge between the fiat landscape and the crypto space. So zero sum in that regard, but well, no, but it's zero sum in that regard. The amount of capital that comes in is the total amount of capital that the currencies, the local currencies, can chase after. So as you get more and more local protocols that come online creating a new currency, you have more and more competition over the same, if not reducing, amount of incoming fiat that comes into the crypto space. Quite interesting mental modeling that will certainly help us understand capital flows into and out of the crypto space over the coming months and years. One curious view. Have you checked out Dopex? Dopex is cool. I tend to avoid stuff that Tetranode's involved with, but it looks like it's been doing very interesting. There's plenty of assets in the crypto space that I like, but I can't overextend the portfolio. You don't have to own everything you want to own, my friend, and that's something I live by. 2 a.m. Sydney as well, trying to resist the sleep. We'll be done really soon. I won't keep you guys. I hit on most of the topics I wanted to talk about today. There's nothing new in the crypto space. Uh, we've talked about all the things that are coming new. Maybe Citadel, Bancor V3, and Catalog. Those are the things that catch my fancy. The second you try and make money in this market, you're going to end up losing money. This is a time where you get off the stream and you're looking over the assets you have. You're looking forward to your weekly revenue stream from a VE curve bribe system or Vodium biweekly, and you get your revenue and you get your income and you put it in the stables and you go on Amazon or whatever, Alibaba, and you go to the electronics store and you pay for gas and you pay for mortgage. Live life. The whole point of all these assets is to work for you so you don't have to work. So you have to at least try it. If you're not selling some of your income for stable coins and building a savings account, I mean, you're kind of missing half the point of the entire crypto space. So sure, you want to grow your principal, but you also want to grow your savings and your bank account and get accustomed to and have the experience using the income to service your nominal debt obligations. Food for thought. Oh, it's a crazy world using this income as actual to pay for expenses. Short-term relief rally coming sooner or later, I guess. Whatever relief rally comes, it's going to be sold. That's just the bottom line. Any idea why the Lido bribe is so big this round? Because bribes will go up over time. These protocols need the bribes to create and ensure deeper and deeper liquidity. So it's a recursive system, it's a self sustaining feedback mechanism, and more bribes will come in over time. Um, maybe less bribes could come in as the price of curve and convex goes up over time. But ultimately, the bribes are going to continue and they're going to go up. Especially as curve becomes scarcer, it's a very slowly disinflating emission schedule. Convex is a much faster disinflation schedule. Um, so I expect a very interesting currency dynamic to play out between the curve emission schedule, the convex emission schedule, and the bribes that are required to sustain the deep liquidity for the protocols that consume curve for its functionality. It's going to be very interesting over the next couple of years, and it's going to take years. Looking at it on a 1 2 day thing doesn't really mean anything. There's a mission schedule that are planned for years to come. So you're going to be able to measure how the emissions rate of curve versus the emissions rate of convex plays out over the next 2 years, because there'll be a fair amount of disinflation over the next 2 years. But that's the type of time horizon that you really need to make some sort of quantifiable, quantitative assessment of how things played out with, just a little bit of hindsight. You know what I'm saying? Texas Eric in the house. Always a pleasure, my friend. It was a good talk the other day. Do you see yield curve control in the near future? Absolutely. They'll probably get desperate enough to implement yield curve control way before they try and do some sort of digital currency. It's a much more sophisticated operation, the digital currency, and predominantly a psychological operation. How do you convince the general public to actually accept it and consume it and use it? That's the biggest burden of a digital currency. You got if you Most people don't understand credit. Most people don't understand banking. Look at the quantity of unbanked persons in the population. They don't understand electronic devices. They can't use computers. They don't use cell phones. So how the hell are you going to get a population to use a digital currency if they're still using a flip phone and they don't know how to operate a computer? The degree of illiteracy in the country is staggering. The amount of dropouts and lack of a higher education is staggering. I just so I see a big burden in the U.S. with regard to a digital currency. China obviously is just totalitarian, so they execute the digital currency, and if someone can't use it, it's a state obligation to figure out how to use it. But that's not the way it works in the U.S. and other Western countries, including good parts of Europe. So it's going to be very interesting how it plays out. We'll see. We'll only see in hindsight. Not for the DPX asset yield on stablecoins. Probably very interesting. I don't know what's going on with DOPEX, but I see the activity, and I appreciate it for what it is. It just doesn't call my attention enough to warrant time allocation. Would like to hear your updated thoughts on Ample. Ample actually caught my eye earlier today. So here's the deal with Ample. Ample is a big deal. So we'd see transit, and I like Ample from the Aave perspective. So obviously you can, you time the market, you catch the reduction in supply when it's rebasing down, and the price point goes up. And so you're able to time the market and make some significant capital gains. But from a passive perspective, what could be said about Ample? If you buy a large quantity of Ample at the opportune time, which is when the price is low, you're probably going to have very little to no yield. But then the price goes high, you get high yield, there's high borrow demand because it's rebasing up. So that means deposited Ample on Aave gets no rebases. So when you've converted your Ample to as a non-rebase asset that gets transitory periods of high rates of return. You're talking about 51% on a relative stable coin that fluctuates at or around the dollar. Sometimes ferociously up to $2, but the point is it's at or around the dollar. So you get these transitory high rates of return on the asset that you could periodically access, meaning if it's fluctuating between 70 cents and a buck 40, let's say, you're only going to want to take capital out and consume your savings when it's at the high, when it's at a buck 40. So, but you're transitorily getting 50, 100, 200, 800% returns. So the fact is it's not rebasing down nor rebasing up, but you're getting these transitory returns means this is actually a very interesting position just in an Aave position. And look how few people realize this opportunity, $1.92 million. Quite interesting. So what does it mean? It's a fluctuating interest rates pseudo stable coin that you're going to have to restrain yourself from interacting with until it's at the high price point. So you'll have windows of opportunity throughout the year to be able to take money out, and you'll also be disincentivized to take money out depending on the interest rate at any given time. So the more I digest Ample over the years, it's a great position. Um, you know, it creates illiquidity because obviously if it's at a low, you're not going to want to sell it. You're going to take a fat loss. You got to wait for the price to go up. The price is going to go up because the protocol is designed to significantly dismember circulating supply. The supply just evaporates from circulation, so the price point is going to go back up. That's basically what the protocol has shown empirically to be the functionality. So it's very interesting in that regard. But that also means for that period of time where the price point is low, you have an illiquid position. You must wait for the price point to go back up, which it will. That's what we see plays out. Anyway, um, you're very welcome, AR, introducing you to Curve. That's a whole nother ball game. That's the monetary policy of the crypto space, at least the one that has the highest degree of reserves, along with Convex and a couple of others. But when something is in constant demand, there's constant uh, need to put it on reserves for purposes of survival of other protocols. That creates a constant demand, and that's going to create a lower boundary for price point. The peak cheapness will be reached much faster than other assets that aren't on reserves, and there's no floor. Floors are all about demand. Dan, my man, he loving the bribes. Incentivized voting. It's not a bribe. It's incentivized voting. Who are we kidding? All right, fine. That's bribes. AR, is it worth building a small position on FTM? Current dip is tempting and has market priced in next Fed hike. I have no interest in platform tokens and FTM. I don't even have interest in Ethereum at this point. Now, I know the monetary policy of Ethereum is right up my alley. The way I talk about currencies is going to be deflationary. Actually, no, it's not really consistent with the way I talk about currencies. In fact, it makes a shitty currency if it's not deflationary. A currency should neither be inflationary nor deflationary. It should be conditionally inflationary or deflationary, depending on the supply and demand balance in the market, such that it has a relatively stable price point. So a net deflationary asset is a pretty shitty currency. Um, obviously, like Bitcoin's not disinflationary. I still think that's a pretty shitty currency too, unless the maximalists get their way and it becomes the denominator. If it's the denominator, sure, it could be any price point. It's the unit of account now. Um, so I have no sense of what I could possibly say in that regard. AR, it's just an asset that I have zero interest in. Mohammed, did you start working with Stargate team yet? No, I have not. I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon. And even if it does, I don't have much time. I'm literally going to be talking the way I do to you guys currently, just to them, encouraging, rational monetary policy, incentives to encourage behavior, incentives to ensure deflationary pressures, to encourage appreciation, not to have excess emissions, which cause depreciation, so on and so forth. It's not going to be as spectacular as people think. I'm not saving Stargate from inflationary hyper depreciation. With that logic, what makes a good currency? Would an FPIS be good? Well, FPIS is a governance asset, so to my understanding, it'll be potentially strongly more deflationary than FXS. No, it's not a good currency at all. I'm unsure if it's deflationary or not, though. Yeah, it's deflationary to my understanding as well. Has similar mechanics to FXS. It's not a good currency at all, and frankly, FPI is not a good currency at all. All the fiats in the world aren't a good currency at all. There's actually no good currencies based on what I just described. I mean, even Curve is a shitty currency because it's scarce. And it's nicely balanced, though, because the reserve requirements pull it out of circulation. So there's little inflation. And in fact, little inflation is probably the optimal manifestation, which is exactly really what the Fed has always done with a target 2% inflation. So I very much have come to the same realization that historic macroeconomists have come to, that the likely optimal manifestation of a currency is a little bit of inflation. But further, it's not just a little bit of inflation. 2% is just a rough value that they say is about right for countries. The optimal manifestation is an adjustable inflation rate to match demand, such that there isn't an imbalance between supply and demand at any given time. So that really is why everyone is tantalized with the notion of the CBDC, because that's the only way to even potentially technologically achieve that reality. Hilda, no, it can VEFXS be productively used like borrowing land? No, it cannot. It's VE. It's voter escrow. It's a deposit. It's not a position. But if you haven't known, if you go to pitch.money and you're getting paid on the weekly, at least from uh, not Temple has been throwing around $150,000 a week in incentives for VEFXS bribes, but they don't have one up this week yet, albeit there's 5 days less in the week. So pitch.money, you follow there to see if there's any bribes coming down the pipe for two protocols. They support Frax and Curve. There's also Hidden Hand, which maybe you'll get some bribes going on for Tokamak, Frax, Ribbon, and Balancer. There's another one. It's Paladin. Paladin Finance, I think, is I haven't looked into this, but there's these three voting systems that are coming online to incentivize bribes to facilitate liquidity and capital flow. So I believe Paladin, you guys can look into that. But obviously, we have our VE token.finance, we have our pitch.money, we have our hidden hand, and obviously the big bubba in the room is Vodium. These are the payers in the bear market because they're paying. Cap, you mentioned I think something about bribes incoming. I mean, look at these bribes. This is big capital flow. Um, Very excited to see the basically the bear market play out, and it's going to happen. It's uh, there's no way this bear market is going to we're going to get any reprieve from it in the short term. This is going to continue. We're going to have a period of austerity. Our income is going to decrease, and there'll be at some point likely where the plumbing breaks and intervention is absolutely required, and then everything blasts off to the moon. You guys know the deal, but you know patience. The key to this market right now is patience. There's literally nothing to do. Because if you're trying to chase yield or you're trying to chase capital gains, this market is gonna scavenge. It's gonna be a predator and it's gonna take your money. Hey, no, in your opinion, what is the hottest place to deploy your stablecoins right now? Currently not in use. Not enough for me to actually be encouraged to do anything. I'm waiting. I'm just sitting. The only thing I would feel comfortable with is maybe an Aave at like 2-3%, but I don't have enough capital for that 2-3% to be productive. So what am I most interested in? Bancor V3 and Catalog Finance. Those are the two protocols that I'm most interested in, and from a stablecoin perspective, and I think they'll hopefully be relatively lucrative from a stablecoin perspective. I'd love to put my stablecoins to work, but I need to do it in a place that I am comfortable with, where I could sleep at night. And if there was room in a Bancor V2 pool, I would sure as heck place my stablecoins in there. Bancor is one of the most trusted brands in the entire crypto space. Hilda, you're very welcome. Let's wrap it up for today, Friday, April 29th at 12:06 p.m. As always, I thank everyone for joining me. Be careful in these markets. Be patient. You don't have to do anything. In a market where there's markets like 2020, May 2020, where the capital is just being given to you. It's easy money. This is not an easy money market. This is a scavengers and predators market. Wait for the easy money. You don't have to fight for it because when the market's giving it away, it's really easy. I wish you all a wonderful weekend. After party on Discord with the most rational community in the entire crypto space. You guys are always there and always rational. It's truly appreciated. NoahSimon.com. If anyone needs anything one-on-one, more than happy to help the best I can. Wish everyone a wonderful weekend and try and pull yourself away from this insane environment. But I will see you on the flip side on Monday. Catch you then. Peace.